guys, Pastor Brody here. Just wanted to let you know that our leadership team has been praying that God would use this sermon to help build you up into the image of his son, Jesus Christ, and that he would do that in conjunction with the local church. So if you're here in the area, why don't you stop by this weekend? Why don't you see us in person and really get connected to what God is doing here? If you're not here, we pray the same for where you are. Get connected to your local church. We think that's one of the best things that you can do. Thanks so much for watching this, and I pray that it blesses you.
Good to see you on this cold winter day, feels like. I was talking to some of you, you got some snow up where you live. We didn't have any at our house this morning. I think there were some flurries, but it's coming. It's coming, and I do not like it at all. We're in this series called the 10 Words for Life, the 10 Words, the 10 Commandments that God gave to Moses on Mount Sinai. And we're walking through these 10 words. Because they point us to life. They point us to Jesus. They point us back to God. And if he gave us these 10 words, if he is speaking to us, if his word is timeless, then it's always timely. It's timely for us right now. It's timely for us yesterday. It's timely for us tomorrow. It will be timeless for us, timely for us until he comes back. So I'm excited to be in this series with you guys. I'm so glad that you have been diving in with us in that. I do want to say a little bit about December coming up. So I think this is going to be a December to remember for us. It's going to be a time where we look forward to what God is going to be doing through Gateway in 2023, and I would love for you to be a part of that. I would love for you to be in the know on all of that. We'll be sharing some different things each Sunday in December leading up to our Christmas service on Christmas Eve. So I would just encourage you to kind of dig in for the month of December so that you can hear what we are hoping and praying that God will be doing in and through us in 2023. So kind of mark those on your calendar, put a star on those dates, and just try to be here for those because I would really love for you guys to be a part of that. If you're new here, that's great. We love you. We're so glad that you're here. If you haven't stopped by, we have a couple tables out in the lobby today since it's so cold outside. If you haven't stopped by one of those, please do. We have a gift for you. We would love to give that to you. We would love to get to know you, to learn your name, and just know that you were here with us today. So please do that today before you step out back into the freezing cold. So the first 4 words that we have been walking through, they set forth the principles guiding God's people in relationship to him. So the first word, there are no other gods. That's what God was saying. The second word, there's no idols. You don't make any idol to worship me. The third word, no taking God's name in vain. You make sure you say, you mean what you say. You make sure that you are under that last name on your back. You're part of God's family. And then the fourth word, to remember the Sabbath. God created us. God created both light and rest. He gave us rest. All of these are how we relate to God. Now, these last 6 words of the 10 Commandments, they set forth the guiding principles for relationship to each other, to one another, and more broadly, the human family. So it goes from like this relationship with God to a relationship with people, loving the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and loving your neighbor as yourself. And this 5th word here, it's kind of the hinge. It's the linchpin. It's that point where we're coming from God and going to people. God is saying he is supreme, he is great, he is the one to be praised, and we are to live in this world with other people who are to be cared for and loved and honored. And the unique relationship of parents to children stands in this unique place in cosmic history. It's that relationship on earth that points to the greater relationship in heaven. So let me just read the verse for us today. We are in Exodus chapter 20, and we're going to be just looking at verse 12, the 5th word today. Verse 12, honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. For many of us, when we read this, we think back to our childhoods. And you know those moments that your mom and dad gave you that look, that look of like, oh no, I did something. Or maybe, you're sitting next to them and under the table, her hand just kind of slides over and grabs you a little tightly around the leg, like, okay, I understand. I was doing something I wasn't supposed to. It's that look that says, I brought you into this world, and I can take you out. There's only one argument that's better than because I said so, and it's the argument of, well, because God said so. So it's that thing that's pointing back to this higher, this greater relationship. But I think maybe you would agree with me. Maybe we're a little too comfortable with this command because we think that it's addressed to children. We think that it's addressed to kids. We think that it's addressed, if you have a kid here with you, you're kind of poking them like, hey, listen, he's talking to you today. But this isn't children's church in the middle of the 10 Commandments. It's not as if we have 9 grown-up adult commandments dealing with things like adultery and murder and idolatry and taking the Lord's name in vain. And then suddenly in the middle of the 10 Commandments, God is addressing children. He's not looking for a way to involve kids right now. He's not looking for a way to kind of put in this aspect of just obeying your father and mother, kids, until you're 18 and then you're good. Obeying father and mother is certainly a part of this word. It's certainly a part of this commandment. But that's not the completeness of what this commandment means. That's not the completeness of what God is saying to us here. So we might paraphrase this commandment as adult children, honor your aging parents whose days have been long upon the land, that your days might be long as well. And what a world we live in. What a world we live in where adult children take advantage of their aging parents by gaining power of attorney, by taking out loans in their name, by getting second mortgages, by taking their vehicles from them. What a world we live in. This is not a word for just children. It bears the weight of the entire length of our relationship with our parents, of our relationship with those older than us, of our relationship with our elders. So, the main idea for today, the thing that we need to take away from this, is that we honor our elders. We honor our elders. When I was young, when I was still going to the pediatrician, we had this one nurse that we loved. Maddie was reminding me of this last night, actually. We had this one nurse that we loved, Nurse Penny. And we would go, and she would teach us all sorts of things. She was great. And one of the things that she would say is she was the first person I ever heard Roll Tide from, which my wife loves because she's from Tuscaloosa. And so now I know how to say Roll Tide. I know when you say it. So she taught us these things. We loved her. And so we wanted to honor her, me and my sister. We wanted to honor her. So we did the only thing that I don't know, 6, 7-year-olds know how to do. We decided that we would name one of our cows after her, Nurse Penny. So we had this cow named Nurse Penny, and we were so excited to go tell her. We wanted to let her know that we loved her so much that we wanted to name a cow after her. I don't think that's what it means to honor, but we're going to find out. How do we do that? How do we honor our elders? How do we honor our elders? What does it even mean to honor our elders? I would say it means 3 things. It means to show esteem, it means to show affection, and it means to show respect. To show esteem, to show affection, and to show respect. That's our outline for today. If you're taking notes, I think there's some maybe under your seat or in the seat back in front of you. You can take some notes on those. But that's our outline for today. Show esteem, show affection, and to show respect. So let's jump into it. The first one, to show esteem, also means to prize highly, to value someone. Our culture, I think, does not do this well. Even the New World, the Western Hemisphere was founded on this idea of searching for the fountain of youth, not the fountain of age. Ponce de Leon was looking for the fountain of youth. He wanted to find it. And the New World Order was kind of founded on this idea that youth is everything, And we see this all throughout our culture and in everyday life, commercials, advertisements, Facebook, Instagram, magazines, everything is yelling at you all the time. Youth is prized. Youth is esteemed higher than anything else. We use filters and we color our hair. We get Botox. We use Rogaine. It's our eternal quest to stay youthful. We prize it more than we do age. But God would say age is to be desired. Elders are to be looked to. Wisdom is to be esteemed higher than youth. Just look at Proverbs 4, verses 7 to 9. The beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom, and whatever you get insight. Prize her highly, and she will exalt you. She will honor you if you embrace her. She will place on your head a graceful garland. She will bestow on you a beautiful crown. When we idolize youth, we undermine wisdom. How do you get her? How do you acquire wisdom? It's experience, it's years, it's age, it's getting older. Other cultures across the world, they're different than we are. And I think that's a good thing. I think maybe that's one of the most notable and readily different things in some other world cultures than here in America. They prize age, they prize wisdom, they prize those who are older than them. I think about the Japanese culture and how they esteem their elders. Here's how one article put it. In Japan, the elderly are generally treated with the utmost respect. Many Japanese families have several generations living under one roof. This factor is believed to be one of the many reasons that in Japan, elderly people live longer than any other population. In fact, there are more elderly citizens than young people in Japan. The population is comprised of more people over the age of 65 than any other age group. I think this is what God is saying here. I think that this esteem of elders is even seen in some of the art forms in Japan. Have you ever heard of the kintsugi? So this art form, they have pottery, and if something happens, if you drop the pottery, if you break it, they don't just throw it away. They put it back together. And in the putting back together, they fill the cracks with gold to highlight that this was broken, to highlight that this was something that was not anymore, but then brought back together. It's the art form of putting back together broken pieces of pottery with gold. It's built on this idea that embracing flaws and imperfections, you can create an even stronger, more beautiful piece of art. And every break is unique. And instead of repairing an item like new, this 400-year-old technique actually highlights the scars as it's part of its design. When you prize youth higher than anything else, your whole aim in life is to hide your scars. It's to hide your wrinkles. It's to hide your gray hairs. You look at your broken pieces and you know that the only place left for them is the trash. That's the only place. It's okay. Is that better? Perfect. Should I just start over? You guys want me to start over? I saw a big no. No, don't. When you prize wisdom, experience, when you prize age, when you prize elders, when you esteem them highly, your whole aim in life is to highlight your flaws, to draw attention to your imperfections, to embrace your age, and to fill the cracks with gold. Why? Because you know that in your weakness, his strength shines through. Weakness is the way. Age is a beautiful thing. And the Lord is calling to us, to his people, to prize our elders, to esteem them highly. Deanna shared with me that her family does this really well towards her dad. Now, Deanna has like 150 nieces and nephews. She has a lot of nieces and nephews. And during COVID, all the families, they got together on Zoom with her entire family. And the purpose, what they wanted, was to give the time and the energy for Grandpa, for Deanna's dad, to be able to be a resource for the whole family, to talk about cultural topics, to teach them about the Bible, to just show them what it's like to live in wisdom and experience. And they honored him. They treasured him. They treasured his wisdom. They lived all over the country, but they wanted their kids to know their grandpa was someone to be prized, someone to be esteemed. Another way I've seen this happen is the family that we lived with in Italy. one of the things that they used to do, they had this tradition where on someone's birthday, they would all sit around a dining table, and they would each say one thing about that person that was unique, one thing that stood out to them, one thing that they loved about that person. And they would do that all the way up until they got to their age. It's pretty easy for a 6-year-old. But when you have a mom, a dad, a grandpa who you're doing this for, and you're saying 60, 70, 80 things that you esteem, that you value about this person, how does that honor them? Dan, one of the launch team members, that he shared with me a story of he went to this funeral with a friend of his, and they went back to this guy's hometown, and I think the town's a little bigger than Waynesville. But this man, his dad was a school teacher. He was a principal for his entire career. And he said at his funeral, the whole town came out. There was a line backed up out of the funeral home that was 4 hours long. These people wanted to honor this person. They wanted to esteem him. These are the types of things that God is calling his people towards. To honor means to show esteem. To honor means to prize highly. To honor means to show admiration for the elders in our community and our culture. But honoring also means to show affection. That's our second point. Show affection. All right, I want to do just a little exercise together. Not exercises and getting up and doing jumping jacks, but just a thought exercise. I'm going to put the first and second commandments up on the screen, the ones that Jesus referred to. And I want you to read through it and mentally fill in the blank with the appropriate word. All right, maybe I'm right in the way. Okay, you shall love the Lord your God with all of your heart and with all of your soul, with all of your mind and with all of your strength. And you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Let's do it again, but I want you to fill in the blank with the word honor. You shall honor the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, with all of your mind, with all of your strength. And you shall honor your neighbor as yourself. Did the meaning change? I don't think so. I think it only expanded. Honor is an expression of rightly ordered love. When we love as we should, we honor the object of our love as we should. And when we do this, it glorifies God, it makes us happy, and it leads us to obedience. Let me just give you an example of how this plays out. So, a few weeks from now, a month and a half from now, it's going to be Christmas morning. Now, I want you to kind of put yourself, you're kind of hovering over the Medford household, and you're looking in on Christmas morning to see what's going to happen. So we wake up early. Maddie and I wake up early before the kids. I love Christmas morning, so I wake up at like 4 a.m. And so we wake up early, and I go out and I turn the lights on. I make us some coffee, and we have this nice quiet time together before the kids wake up, and they're joyous over everything going on. And we sit down together, and I kind of pull out this little present, and I hand it to her. And I say, I got this for you. I'd love for you to open it. She opens it, and it's this beautiful necklace, and I just say, Merry Christmas. And she says, Brody, it's beautiful, but it's too much. Why'd you go to such an expense? Now, what if I said, well, because it's my duty. You know, I heard a preacher say one time that this is what husbands do on Christmas. I saw a bunch of commercials, so that's what I did. I got you this necklace. What's wrong with that answer? Everything, right? Everything is wrong with that. Okay, let's rewind a little bit. Okay, I hand her the gift, and she opens it. It's this beautiful necklace, and she said, oh, my goodness, you shouldn't have. They're beautiful. Why'd you go to such an expense for me? Well, I couldn't help myself. Not only did I get you this, but I have a babysitter coming over tonight. I'm going to take you out. We're going to spend some time alone together. There's nothing that I'd rather do than to spend the evening with you. It would make me very happy. Now, do you think in that moment, do you think Maddie would say, it would make you happy? You're always thinking about what makes you happy. What about me? What about your wife? Why wouldn't she say this? Because she is glorified when I am happy in her. You know this. experience this. When you find pleasure in someone or something, it makes them your treasure. And that's what they feel. They feel treasured. Maddie feels treasured when I am happy in her. And God feels the same way. God is glorified when you are happy in him. It's our love, it's our honor, it's our affection in God that leads to our happiness in his glory. And it's our love, it's our honor, it's our affection in our parents, in our older adults, in our aging community that leads to our happiness and his glory. All right, let me just give a little disclaimer. It is possible to show honor whether we love an individual or not, at least outwardly. We can give the motions of honor. We may speak of God and others honorably while lacking love for them. We may act sacrificially toward God and toward others while lacking love for them. Honor rendered without love is still better for the common good than dishonor. It is, but it's an empty obedience. Motive matters. Intent matters. It's not just the content. Intent matters. Honor fueled by love lies at the heart of the fifth word, as it does for the heart of all 10. Here's another way to think about love and honor. I was listening to a sermon a year or so ago from one of the pastors at Mercy Hill, and he was talking about love for the Father. And he gave this great analogy of his kids running up to him and when they were little and holding out their hands and wanting to be picked up. And when Sienna was smaller, she would come up to us and she would say, hold you. And now Juliet, she's starting to hold out her hands to be picked up too, but she doesn't hold them up like this. She kind of holds them like this, like she wants to be held up. And then this pastor, he said, but there was one day that was the last day that they did that. And that broke my heart. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine our kids not wanting to come and be held. And so now every time Sienna or Juliet want to be held, I pick them up. But honoring our elders, honoring our aging parents, part of that is the love of reaching out. It's the love of reaching up to them. It's the love of wanting to be held, wanting to show affection and honor, wanting to provide that touch. And even especially so with people who are in hospice or healthcare facilities, the reaching out of a hand does wonders. Why? Because it shows them that they are honored, that they are loved, that they are remembered and cared for. And it's amazing how God is teaching us this in these 10 words, that he is showing his people how to love and how to care for those of all ages. To honor means to show esteem. It means to show affection. And finally, to honor means to show respect. To show respect. It's so common for us in our day and age to say, well, I'm not going to honor him because he's not worthy of my respect. I'm not going to show honor to her because she's not worth my time. We look at people, we especially elders, and we think, no, they haven't earned it. They haven't earned my respect. Or I don't agree with them. I don't agree with how they think about life and their view on this or their view on that. And so therefore, I'm not going to respect them. I could open up a whole can of worms here. Just talking about political figures. I won't. But ask yourself this. Are you following this word when it comes to our representatives, local, state, national? Are you following it? Maybe instead of posting your disdain on Facebook, you should be praying for them. Again, I think this idea of respect and reverence is sometimes clearly seen in other cultures. With the refugees that we worked with in Italy, it was clearly seen. Their cultural background kind of helps give them this normal kind of position of respecting their elders, of valuing their word. The word of an elder carries weight in their cultures. Someone in our sermon planning was sharing a story of when someone they knew had gone on a mission trip to an African country. And the couple who live there and who minister to the families in the area, to the local population, they're younger. They're probably mine and Maddie's age, in their early 30s. But the culture of the place that they were in values age, values wisdom. And if you don't have gray hair, then you don't have much to say. As a younger individual, you couldn't approach someone who's older than you. They would have to approach you first. They would have to invite you in. And so this really causes a dilemma if you're trying to reach a population with the good news of Jesus. And so they had a team come over from the States, just a week or two long. They came over to visit, to encourage, to care for them. And on that team, there were older individuals, some gray-haired individuals. And what did this do for that couple in this country? It gave them a ground, a foundation for the local population to look at them and say, oh, their elders value them, therefore we can value them too. It gave them an entry point. It gave them a step in the front door. Proverbs 16:31. Gray hair is a crown of glory. It is gained in a righteous life. That's part of God's design. That's part of God's design for our life to flourish, for our life to be lived to the full, respecting, revering, submitting to the wisdom of our elders. Now, listen, the Ten Commandments, that deals with matters of heavenly submission, of earthly submission, and of mutual submission in that order. If authority is an issue for you, the 10 words speak to it on every level. Authority or power is not a bad thing. I think the maxim, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. I think it's wrong. Power amplifies. That's what power does. Power amplifies what is already there in your character. When evil people have power, they spread evil. When good people have power, they spread good. And I think as people, we're looking for a system that's designed so well that there's no longer a need for us to be good. That's not what God is saying. He's not trying to create a system where we don't have to be good. He's inviting us into this living out the 10 words. I think this is why in the New Testament, when the writer of the book of Ephesians calls back to this fifth word, he says, obey your parents, and then immediately after that, he qualifies it with the phrase, in the Lord. Obey your parents in the Lord. Parents are to be shown honor. Our elders are to be shown honor. But nowhere is their word to rival or substitute God's word. It's practically impossible to honor someone who is asking you to walk into disobedience. But here, this is where I think community comes in. This is where I think God's community is just so vital in our life. It's practically impossible to honor an elder, to honor someone who's older than us, who is asking you to walk into disobedience if you are walking life alone. If you're walking through life alone, it is impossible for you to do that. But when you live life in community with other believers, with someone who can kind of step into that place and help you navigate those difficult situations with authority, when someone's asking you or demanding you to do something which the Bible would say is not in the Lord, your first line of defense should be to seek the wise counsel of those around you. Community is crucial for the Christian life. And when you have that community around you, and when you're open and honest and vulnerable, then God will start to use them to help you see where you can respect elders, even if you don't agree, even if you can't obey. Psalm 27:10. This is the story for some of you. For my father and my mother have forsaken me, but the Lord will take me in. Even if you can't obey, because you can't do that in the Lord will take you in. It is good for the community, for our culture, when children honor their parents by caring for them and treating them respectfully into their old age, but it's not always easy. And if it were, there wouldn't be a commandment about it. That's why we need God working through others in our life to help us live out these 10 words, to help us have life and life to the full, to help us extend our days in the land, and to help us lead with dignity and discernment. I can't help but in thinking about this, I can't help but think about the story that Jesus tells about the son who dishonors. there were two sons. And one of them looked at his father, and he wanted to have his part of the inheritance now. He wanted it right now. He didn't want to wait until his dad died. He wanted it right now. And so he went and told his dad that I want it. I want it right now. What does his dad do? He gave it to him. He gave him everything. He said, okay, well, this half is yours, so I'm going to go ahead and give you your half. And then the son immediately went away to a far country. He squandered it all the wealth that he had been given. He just gave it all away. He wasted it. He did not treat it right. And then a great famine hit the land, Jesus said. And this dishonoring son, he convinced a local farmer to just kind of take him in and give him a job as one of the hands on the farm. And as the famine kind of grew and his hunger grew, he started to look at the pigs' muck and looked at that as if it was something to be desired. And he finally kind of came to his senses, and he thought, even my father's workers have it better than me. So he was going to go back, and he was going to tell his father that he had done him wrong, and he was going to let him know all the ways that he had messed up, and he was going to let him know how he squandered everything, and then he was going to beg that he would maybe just hire him as one of his workers. So he starts to go home. And when his father sees him from far away, what happens? He runs to him. He embraced him. He was filled with love and compassion, and he cried out to the other workers to come and to kill the fattened calf. And we need to have a party. We need to celebrate because my son was lost, but now he is found. He was dead, but now he is alive. And the one who deserved honor, the father, the one who deserved honor, he laid down his honor and ran to the dishonorable one. God so clearly wants you to be a part of his family that he runs to you even in your dishonor. That he knows he deserves all of the honor in the world. He knows that. He's God. He's the smartest one. But he was willing to be dishonored in front of crowds of people. He was willing to be naked, hung on a cross, in order to run to you. He wants you to come back home. Maybe you're sitting here today and somewhere along the way you just lost your way. He's calling you to come back home today. He's running to you to come back home today. So don't delay. And listen, when you take that step, when you see your father running towards you and you embrace him and you say, Dad, I did everything wrong. And he says, well, thank God that you're found. Thank God that you're here. One of the first steps in your new life is to be baptized. It's one of the things that we believe wholeheartedly. And so I just want to encourage you, if that's you, if you are ready for baptism, to fill out one of these cards and to drop it in the box on your way out. We would love to celebrate that with you. We would love to let the world know that you are now walking in obedience in this new way of life. So don't delay. This life that we live, it's the lab in which God's children learn to submit to a heavenly authority by submitting to earthly authority. It's how he has it worked out for us. It's the way that he wants us to live. It's the 10 words for life. And the idea is that there's value even in submitting to undeserved authority. It's absurd to us and to our culture, but there is something in it that's transformative. There's something in it that changes us. And so as we kind of end here today, I just want to think through some practicals. Parents, how are you doing teaching your kids to respect authority, to honor elders? Are you teaching them what it looks like to obey? For our girls, for Sienna and for Juliet, one of the first things that we try to teach them to say, we'll ask them a question of, well, what do you do if mom or dad asks you to do something? And their response is, we obey right away with a happy heart. Obey right away with a happy heart. There's a great video, Sienna, I'll show it to you. Saying this. This is one of the first things that we want them to know. We're trying to teach them in these early years of life what it looks like to obey, what it looks like to be obedient, what it looks like to honor those older than she is. a Christian parent, they train their children to submit to the visible and temporal authority so that one day the kids might submit to God's invisible and eternal authority. Obedience, then. It's word taught and life caught. God teaches it to us in his word, and we teach it to each other in community, in life with one another. And this is one of the reasons that we have kind of this verbiage in our membership covenant. We value membership here really highly. We expect a lot out of our members, and we want them to want to be accountable to these things. And so let me just read you some of the ways that we kind of frame this in the covenant. So one of the ways that we kind of have this word baked into our covenant is we say to submit to the leadership of the church. And this is what it says. We will cooperate with, submit to, and prayerfully support the leadership of the pastors and elders who have been entrusted by God to serve and care for this body by teaching the word of Christ to us and modeling the character of Christ before us. So that's one of those. Another one is this one. We promote, we seek unity with one another. And this is what it says in our covenant. We will walk together in Christian love, exercise affectionate care and watchfulness over each other, faithfully advise one another, and seek to maintain the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. We want to do this with one another. We want to be held accountable to this end. And also, one other thing that kind of matches up with this word in our covenant is that we want to build gospel-centered homes. And here's what it says. We will endeavor to bring up our children and those under our care in the nurture and admonition of the Lord, and by a pure and loving witness to seek the salvation of our family and friends. Honoring our elders is so much a part of who we are as a church. It's so much a part of who we are as Christians. When we honor our elders, we show the world what it looks like to live under God's rule. We show the world a picture of the gospel when we honor those older than us. What would it look like for you to honor someone who's older than you this week? To show esteem, or to show affection, or to show respect? Is it a boss? Is it a parent? Is it a principal or teacher or professor? Who is it? Who can you show esteem to? Who can you show affection to? Who can you respect this week? If you're older, if you're looking around and saying, well, now that the queen's gone, I'm kind of the oldest one in the room, are you living a life worthy of honor? Are you giving your time and your talent and your treasures in order that the next generation might live on fire for Jesus? What would it look like? What would it look like, my senior adults, if you lived counterculturally and helped to build up these younger believers into the image of Jesus Christ? What a radical way to live. Maybe you're not even a believer. Maybe you're sitting here today and you're like, well, listen, I'm not a Christian, I know that. But what would it look like for you to even come under this grace of God, to honor your parents, to seek their benefit, to seek their gain, to show them love and esteem and respect? How might that change your life? Even that simple act of honoring those people whom God has entrusted to you. It might be that your days in the land will be long. It might be the thing that leads you down the path to having a relationship with God. It might be that first step of faith that you need to take. This one's a tough word. It is. I think we look at it, and we're like, well, this is for the kids. It's not for me. This one's tough for me. It's tough for me to understand how I need to do this with my parents, with my family. It's tough for me to know how to honor in such a way that shows respect, that shows affection. But here's what I would say. If God is for us, who can be against us? Let's pray. Father God, this is one of your words to your people. And this is the first word that you start to turn, that the hinge of the door starts to turn, and where you stop talking about yourself and you start talking about how we relate to one another on this earth. And God, it's such a picture. To honor our father and our mother is such a picture of what it looks like to honor you. Those visible pictures of authority in our life help us to relate to you, the invisible one, the eternal one, the one who demands all honor and authority and respect. God, I pray that you would help us, that you would encourage us, that you would enliven us to live up to this word. And Lord, when we fail, as we often do, remind us that you are the God who runs to the dishonorable one, that you are the God who doesn't turn away, who doesn't shy away, but you run to us and embrace us with open arms and say, this is my son who is lost but now is found, who was dead but is now alive. God, help us to just trust in that and to live out of a faith in what you have done for us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.